Hello again, this is the 23rd of February 2026 and this is another me and my spin. And this week it's the fashion, interior decor, general design of the early 1970s, by which I mean from the mid-60s through to into the early 80s. But yeah, centred around early 70s, let's say. And it's something that I've been interested in for a long time. Well, about as long as I can remember, really. But it goes in peaks and troughs, and it's peaking at the moment. I think largely because I've been watching quite a lot of Quentin Smyers. If you're not aware of what Quentin Smyers is, he's a YouTuber who creates these sort of comedy sketches, stroke, surrealist artworks that are largely based on children's TV of the 70s. Right. I'm going to start by showing off some of the lovely things I've collected. It's a label maker. It doesn't actually work very well. I mean, you can sort of see there's a bit of tape stuck in it. I don't know if maybe changing the tape would help. Listen. It doesn't work. It's sort of doing something with a tape for it, actually. I don't know. Yeah, I just found it in my grandparents' house and I thought, I'm having that. I don't know why, it just spoke to me. And as I say, it's useless, but I just like it. I don't know. My lovely 70s label maker. You peel off the back of the plastic and it's sticky. It's supposed to be, it's not sticky anymore. I don't know if you can still get tape for them. As I say, maybe it's the tape that's the problem. It's one of those things I sort of feel like I ought to work out at some point, but never actually have. My little glass. Now, my mum bought this and it had a little twin with it. Hello Zebedee. From a charity shop in 1991. And the other one broke. So I'm sort of scared to use this one now. I just sort of leave it at the back of the cupboard because I just really like it. I love it. I love the pattern on it. I love the colour of it. It sort of looks a little bit like uranium glass, but I don't think it is. I've looked at uranium glass. It's a bit more yellow. But yes, that's my little glass that I love so much I never use it. It's a bit sad, really. There it is. Let's move on to things with brown and orange flowers on. This is my headscarf. I actually wear this a lot at work. I got it for £1 at a flea market. It was just in a pile of scarves and hankies and things. And I just feel like the design on it is much closer to, you know, the authentic sort of 70s designs than modern in the style of sort of things. Even though it's absolutely pristine. You know, it's I don't want to untie it because, as I say, I wear it quite a lot, and I've just got it at a nice sort of angle for my head. The colours are just so vibrant, and you know, as I say, the fabric is just absolutely unmarked. I've just put it on like this. I'll show you how I put it on. And I wear it at work just to keep my hair tidy, like this. And I get complimented on it a lot. A lot of people, oh, is that real? Is that a real vintage scarf? Put it on like that, and it just does the job. You know, it's a lot better than putting it in a ponytail or something that slips out after a couple of hours. You know, it's just absolutely spot on. I don't know why more people don't wear them, to be honest. It's what everybody needs. A nice little bandana headscarf type thing. Love it. £1 well spent. plate. Got this in a charity shop for 25p when I left home. There was actually a big stack of them, 2 different sizes. I had 4 big ones and 5 slightly smaller ones. So I think it must have been part of a bigger set that a few have lost over the years. I looked up the design. It's a maker called Kilncraft, and they started producing this in 1972. And it has featured on Quentin Smyers as well. They've used this kind of plate and a like casserole dish with a similar design on it. I have seen like teapots and cups and things with the same sort of pattern on, but I do not own them, I'm afraid. This is they're my everyday plates. I use them all the time. Hence, 2 have actually smashed in the past 11 years or so. These are my good plates, okay. The pattern is called Calabar. It is by a manufacturer called Palissy. This was actually given to me by my great auntie, who kept them for many years as her best plates, and never used them as a result. So they're in my cupboard, not getting used again. I have actually used them once. I used them once for when I had a New Year party and the kids were at Grandma's. I got these out. So they have had a use. Some of them have. I didn't use all of them. Yeah, I love the shades of the orange and the brown, and how they, you know, it's kind of recognisable as a flower, but it's also an abstract design. Maybe sort of Arabic inspired a bit. Yeah, I love things like that. That's the kind of thing that, you know, really attracts me. So, you know, sets something off really zinging in my head. As I will explain later, I think there is the reason I'm attracted to this kind of long 1970s fashion is, at least in part, a kind of autistic thing. But yes, love it. And my latest purchase, my new top. Look at this. You're in the way, Zebedee. I'm sorry. Thank you. Look at this. Isn't it beautiful? Can you see it? It comes down. It's amazing, isn't it? Look at the colour. It's like proper dagger collar. Look at that. Oh, you can get 3 fingers under that, can't you? Yes. Now, I bought it online. I bought it off a seller in Germany, actually. And I posted a picture of the label online, and someone who obviously knows a lot more about these things than I do says it's clearly East German, because the fabric is just given as synthetic, whereas in West Germany it'd give a brand name, tell you know what specifically kind of synthetic fabric it is. You know, is it nylon or rayon or whatever. The exact date we're a bit unclear about. A lot of people sort of said in the comments, oh, that's obviously 60s, and a lot of people said, no, it must be 70s. And he said, oh, I had one like that. I had one very similar. But yeah, I just think the design on it is amazing. You know, the colours, the sort of little trails of flowers and how they kind of meld into the, you know, these orange and brown rainbows. And, you know, see all the little trails of flowers going up there, and it's not, there's not a lot of colour in it, but it's very eye catching. You know, it's the brown, 2 shades of orange, a yellow and a pink, but it just looks eye popping. You know, I love that aspect of the design. Yes, the vintage clothes thing, I am not, well, I haven't been until very recently a vintage clothes buyer. It's something that I've had an interest in, but I haven't really felt that I want to spend a lot of money getting a unique item, maybe. I have sort of looked around shops and things, thought, oh wow, that's amazing, that's lovely. But I wouldn't say it's because I didn't dare wear them. I just wouldn't spend that much on a single item, thinking of getting dirty and things, But I have recently, it has recently occurred to me that a lot of things in my wardrobe are technically vintage, that is over 20 years old. So I've started thinking, well, why not buy, something that is in fact older than me? So somewhat, I don't know the story to it. I have no idea how this particular top has come to, be in perfect condition, well, over 50 years after it was made. I don't know if someone bought it and thought, oh, it doesn't really fit very well, it's not really me, and put it in the wardrobe and didn't think about it again. I don't know if maybe it's dead stock, things that were supposed to be sold but for whatever reason weren't, and then resurface. Where have they been? Well, it's like my scarf. How has this scarf survived? As I say, it's that is not in the style of the 70s. That is a 70s design. It's just been sat in a drawer somewhere, presumably, unused. Someone bought it, for whatever reason, maybe wore it once or twice and then put it away. I don't know. It never saw the light of day until someone cleared out Grandma's house and somehow it ended up at a flea market. I'm guessing. It's that's part of the mystique of the vintage clothes for me. What has happened to this? What is its story? Who made this? Who owned it? How has it come to be mine? And yeah, I'm sort of at a stage in my life, in my sort of emotional maturity, if you like, that I can cope with being the guardian of these objects. I think when I was a child, I was sort of often told, don't wear white, don't wear your nice dress, this sort of thing, in case you get it dirty. And I've always had a bit of a fear of ruining my clothes, even though it's something that I don't do. As I say, I've got a lot of things in my wardrobe that are well over 20 years old. Yeah, I think as well I've kind of been working on developing my own style a lot as well. And what I've discovered lately is my own style is basically things that were in fashion, give or take 1970. When I say in fashion, I mean, probably if I was walking around then, I would look like I was in some sort of weird, scary subculture and probably a bit of a cross-dresser. Yeah, if I could time travel, I would go back to 1970-ish and have a little shopping trip. So I'd go and meet my granddad as well. My granddad died before I was born. He died. He was in Merchant Navy and his ship went down in a storm in 1979. It was front page news for one day. I'd like to have met him. I'd like to have met my granddad if I could time travel. See, this is the thing with time travel, isn't it? Would I say don't get on that ship? Because what if, several years later, when my dad was supposed to be meeting my mum in a nightclub and sharing a taxi home with her, what if he had plans with his dad that day and they didn't meet? What if, sometime in the early 80s, my granddad ran my mum over with his car, sorry. What if, you know what happens with time travel, don't you? That sort of thing. Would I, if I could time travel, look up pivotal moments in the career of Margaret Thatcher and make sure she had food poisoning that day? Maybe if I did that, I would come back to a future that I don't recognise, in which my children were never born, in which I'm a different person living a very different life somewhere else. And I can never tell anybody what I did to save the world, because they'd think I was completely mad. I've been putting too much time and thought into this, haven't I? Yeah. Anyway, by the by. Yes, there is one last item of very 70s gear that I have that I can't show you because it's in the attic and I can't be bothered to bring it down. It's a vacuum cleaner. It's one of those sort of cylindrical ones. It's an Electrolux. It's sort of golden yellow and brown. And my grandparents owned it for 40 years, used it regularly, and it was a fantastic vacuum cleaner for many, many years. And then, of course, my granddad went into a home, my nan died, my granddad went into a home, and I inherited the vacuum cleaner. And I had it a few months and it packed in. They don't make them like they used to, do they? I'd only owned it a few months and it had packed in. But I've still got it in my attic because, you know, I just feel like it's served my family well for many years, and I just can't really bear to let it go, and I don't really know what to do with it. I sort of feel like, is it a museum piece? How do I get it in a museum? Is it repairable? I did take it to my local electrical repair place, and they said they'd have a look at it, but you know the part is no longer manufactured, and they couldn't find anything on eBay that might be replaceable, so it sort of ended up happening. But anyway, yes. Why do I particularly attach to the, shall we say, early 70s? I think, as I mentioned before, there is an element of autistic attraction. Is that the right word? I feel that there is something that I probably wouldn't feel this way if I wasn't autistic, let's say. I mean, the first thing is, very obviously, as I've described, you know, the visuals, you know, all those sort of really lurid psychedelic paisley prints and things. As someone who's very visually seeking, I really love all that kind of thing. You know, I love the bold geometric prints in the wallpapers. I love the flowers on the shirts and the shapes. You know, the sort of silhouette of the big flares and the swishy cardies and things. Yeah, that's the obvious one. The bold colours and everything. I think sort of more subtly as well. No, I was born in the mid-80s. I'm 40ish, let's say. And when I was a child, 70s was sort of synonymous with everything that was sort of naff, has been, no longer fashionable. You know, it's the wallpaper that everyone was stripping off and painting magnolia. It's clothes that nobody would be seen dead in anymore and laughed that they ever wore. It was, you know, celebrities that are no longer A-listers. You know, old banger cars. It was just everything that everybody wanted to get rid of and forget about. And, you know, as there is a sort of psychology to being autistic, I think, that kind of connects with sort of the underdog, let's say. We're used to being left out. We're used to being, you know, not part of the in crowd, and connect with those things that are also not particularly trendy. And I mean, this is a big thing for me personally. Obviously, no autistic trait is universal, but it's something that I feel very strongly, and I have done from a very young age. I associate the latest trends with the kids that were mean to me at school. I've always just sort of dismissed fashion generally as being a bit of a con. You buy your things, you buy your new clothes, you buy your new furniture and everything, and then within a few years it's obsolete. You've got to buy all new stuff, and what's all that about? Just so you can be like everybody else. What's so great about everybody else? And I think that, yeah, as I say, the fashions of the recent past, or what was the recent past, sort of resonated with me on that sort of level. As I say, there were things that actually appealed to me personally. I liked the colours, I liked the patterns. And I didn't like that minimalist look that was big in the 90s particularly. And also for me personally, being the age that I am, it was what real adults were doing. It was things that my parents talked about happening before I was born. It was like this sort of secret club that the grown-ups were in, remembering the 70s, But it was also, on the flip side, it was also like the music and the TV series that had stood the test of time, that was still being repeated. I've talked before about, how when I was small, my favourite thing to do when I went to my grandparents' house was sit and watch all the old sitcoms with my granddad. We sit and watch things like Rising Damp and Porridge and Are You Being Served and Fawlty Towers and things. And, that was like my quality time with my granddad. And I have very fond memories of all these things. Even, looking back, yes, some of them are quite problematic. Some of them are worth another look. Some of them seem quite primitive, but were well intentioned. Yeah, it was the music that my parents liked. It was things that had sort of been around a while and become comfortably worn in. It was the decor in my grandparents' friends' houses where they'd been living for years and years and never changed anything. So it sort of felt appealing on that level as well. I'm not going to say that I wish I could have lived then. I mean, there was a lot of a lot of bad stuff going on in the world as well. I mean, there's always bad things happening. I mean, the modern day is hardly utopia. I'm quite glad I lived through that brief window in the late 90s into the 00s when racism was actually quite uncool amongst young people. It's made a bit of a comeback lately. But yeah, I feel that there are elements of the fashion, the design, the sort of general look of the era that appeal to me, not just on a visual level. There's something quite deep, emotional going on there as well. And I never really felt like I was a child. You know, I was very bad at being a child. I wanted to be a grown-up. I felt like I was just a very short adult who didn't know all the secrets. Um, and yeah, I still find, maybe this is another autistic thing, you know, I still find that I seem to have an above average amount of friends who are significantly older than me as well. Um, I feel like this is another sort of downside. I do sometimes feel like I'm culturally appropriating. Um, you know, wearing things like this. You know, I mean, I've always been a flares wearer. I've always been a flares wearer. From my early teens, I think I got a pair of jeans. You know, the second time it was in fashion. It'd be late 90s, I think. No, hang on, I was nearly 13 years old. I've been wearing. I just wore tracksuits or leggings all the time, and my mum was always on at me. You know, you need to wear something a bit more smart, a bit more grown up. And I sort of relented, and she bought me these jeans, and they had a bit of a flare to them and a bit of sort of embroidery around the bottom. And I put them on, and I just felt absolutely fantastic. I thought, I'm just going to wear trousers like this for the rest of my life, and I did. Up until I was pregnant, and then I sort of had to branch out a bit because you know you're quite limited in maternity wear, and of course this was the mid-20 teens when you know it was very tight jeans were in. So I started wearing some leggings and some tight jeans and things as well. But I still just keep coming back to flared jeans because I feel like that's me. Though I do find that the flares in the 70s are not exactly like the flares that have sort of kept coming back into fashion. They're this tight at the top and then the legs sort of gradually ease out as they go down. I mean, they do have the bell bottoms, which are, you know, they're sort of tight to the knee and then quite quickly flare out. But, you know, the general trousers that everybody was wearing at the time were, sort of flared throughout the leg. Which, yeah, that doesn't really come back in very often. And I find, you know, the retro clothes, the one that are sort of imitations of, they go hard on the flowers, you know, but they don't always get the colours right or the placement. As I was saying, this. You see, the flowers are in a pattern. They're in a pattern, and that's what makes me think it is, you know, a genuine article. You know, like a maybe 50 or so year old scarf, and you can see the colours in them. They've got this sort of moon blue and pea green, and I think a modern imitation would sort of have them dotted all over quite evenly, and more colour, you know, more bright colours. I feel like I had something else to say about this. I have joined a Facebook group as well. Facebook group. Well, there's two actually. There's 70s decor and 70s clothing, and I find it's quite it's quite an eclectic group of people on there. You know, it's people of all ages, and some of them are saying that they remember actually wearing all these things at the time and showing photos of themselves with, you know, all their, you know, their wedding pictures from the 70s and things. And there's some of us kind, you know, people like me who are a lot younger but do just like the image, the look, the colours. And there's a great atmosphere, you know, everybody just sort of shares the same interest. And I did kind of worry a bit, you know, there'd be some, I remember the corned beef of my childhood kind. But no, everybody's really nice. All getting on very nicely and sharing their pictures of their stuff that they like. It's great. Yeah, I was going to talk about the aspect of why I feel it's a bit cultural appropriation, wasn't I? Yes, there were, you know, things that I would not like to relive going on. Yeah, and I was saying how, bad things happen all the time. There was a little accumulation of, you know, the Cold War and the Troubles and, you know, frequent power cuts and so on. Things that you wouldn't necessarily want to relive. And I wonder if just by concentrating on the aesthetic, that's the word at the moment, the aesthetic aspects, am I kind of disrespecting what actually was happening? You know, not everything was pleasant. I think as well, since the whole sort of Operation Yewtree type news articles, the 70s as a whole has sort of taken on quite a dark persona. You know, it's been associated a lot with kind of sexual violence and you know, abuse of power, misogyny. And I feel like, again, that's not something that I want to associate with or sort of suggest that I am not bothered about. Yeah, for me it is a look. It's just a look. I suppose there's a bit of a feeling to it as well. Yeah, there are a lot of things going on at the same time that I don't really want people to think that I am ignoring. And I feel like that the whole sort of late 20th century was a period of, you know, a lot of social change. You know, things that had never happened before in terms of, you know, things like women's rights and the introduction of, you know, the concept of teenagers and, you know, most people expected disposable income and things like that. And of course the 1970s slap bang in the middle of all that. And there's still a lot of people very confused about all that kind of thing today. Yeah, this is the one thing that I can't really get away from as a downside to, you know, being really into 70s stuff. And as I say, it is something that's fluctuated throughout my life. Sometimes I go through long periods of not being that bothered or having interest in another historic period. It's one that keeps coming back to me, that I feel kind of really resonates with me on some level. But yes, there was dark side to it as well. I mean, there's yeah, as I say, there is a dark side to every historic era, but I think, you know, the kind of public perception currently is quite double-edged. Sorry, my cat's just doing something with a plant. It's okay, it stopped. Yeah, there are different groups of people who look fondly on the 70s as well. There's there is the sort of gammony types who look on it as the last bastion of beating children with sticks and, you know, no blacks, no dogs, no Irish, and you know, chasing gays with pitchforks or whatever they used to do. And that then not people want to associate with. Yeah, I'd rather sort of stay with the, you know, all the nice hippies and you know, union people and so on that I kind of associate with anyway. Yes, it's not a time that I wish I could live in. It's a time that I am glad I can sort of sit in my centrally heated house with my broadband and eat sushi whilst you know, wearing some cool clothes like these and you know, watching all the sitcoms that I enjoy despite cringe moments and so on. Gawping at Richard Beckinsale. I feel like if I had unlimited time and money, I didn't have a husband and children to think of, I could probably make life quite hard for myself. You know, and there are people who like to completely do out their house and live as if it was a historic period. I don't know, maybe if I won the lottery but the rest of my family disowned me or something, maybe I'd have a go, I don't know. It'd be a strange situation, wouldn't it? I don't really know how I would react to that. Can't really say what I would do in such an odd situation. But yes, if I didn't have barriers in place, I might do it part-time. I don't know. And that's the way I feel now. You know, I might feel different in a few months. I might have a different obsession. But what was I going to? I'm just sure there was something that I was going to go into that has escaped me, or some aspect that I haven't discussed with myself. You're welcome to listen if you want. I did have I did have a comment from someone saying that the information didn't seem accurate because I kept saying I think. Well, the purpose of these me and my spin type things isn't to you know, make a documentary about the subject in hand. It's about, you know, watching how I, an autistic person, talk about things that appeal to me. and also, you know, sort of outlet, personal outlet for me to get things off my chest and sort of feel like I've been listened to, even if I haven't, even if nobody's bothered watching my videos. I don't get a lot of views, and I'm lucky to get 20, 30 views, and most of those are people who click off anyway. I'm just going to leave it there. I'm going to leave it. If I do think of anything else, I might put it in the description. I do that, and then I don't think anybody will read the descriptions either. I don't know why I bother, really. Why do I bother? That's the eternal question. What do you can you remember what it was that I was going to say? Can you remember, Zebedee? I'll see you in the next one. I'll just see you in the next one.